50 has just dropped shocking new footage showing a tense and shaken side of Diddy behind bars, and it's spreading fast online. For a long time, rumors claimed he was calm, comfortable, and even guiding others. But this clip completely flips that story. Instead, it suggests real pressure, rising fear, and people around him who don't have good intentions. New reports now hint that past conflicts may be catching up with him, putting his situation at risk in ways few saw coming.
This
guy's life might be danger over here because people think that he has something to do with Pac. People think he has something to do with Biggie, and they right here in Brooklyn. You understand? It's right here in Brooklyn, and some of the people are still mad that he made making it a band walk to Brooklyn from, to get the cheesecake, and just around the corner from the Cheesecake Factory. So, Juniors. So it might be some dumb So y'all need to get him out of here and ship him to Jersey because somebody gonna kill him over here. Those are good arguments, if you want to call it, but it's bullshit. He gonna get the same treatment no matter how much money he got.
For decades, the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Christopher, the notorious B.I. Wallace, have remained a painful shadow over hip-hop, refusing to fade with time. Throughout all these years, Diddy has consistently and firmly denied any involvement in either tragedy, standing by his position as questions and speculation continue to resurface.
This documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to fuck? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Thank Tupac was gunned down in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas on September 7, 1996, fighting for 6 days before passing away at just 25. And only 6 months later, Biggie was killed in a similar attack in Los Angeles, wiping out two rap giants back-to-back during one of hip-hop's most divided eras. That divide, known as the East Coast-West Coast feud, went far beyond music and was fueled by pride, loyalty, and years of built-up tension, with Diddy standing firmly on the East Coast as Biggie's close friend, producer, and the head of Bad Boy Records. Over time, Diddy's name continued to surface in discussions surrounding both deaths, and those conversations were reignited by the Netflix doc user Sean Combs' The Reckoning, which brought forward claims suggesting deeper involvement. According to voices in the series, the tension between Diddy and Tupac traced back to November 30, 1994, when Tupac was robbed and shot at Quad Studios in New York while there to record for a incident was never officially resolved. But Gene Deal has long claimed that Diddy had prior knowledge something was about to happen and chose not to intervene. A detail he says was missing from the 50 Cent documentary. According to Gone, on that same day, Diddy, Andre Harrell, and Jimmy Henchman were together in Jimmy's office, a situation he insists was not random and unknown to others at the time. He argues Diddy was closely monitoring Biggie because he controlled his publishing and wanted full awareness of the music being created, placing him in the building to observe rather than collaborate. Gene further alleges that during this meeting, Jimmy Henchman suggested Tupac was going to be sent a message over a financial dispute. A claim that continues to fuel controversy and unanswered questions around that day.
Being there to spy on Big, Jimmy Henchman told him that they finna teach Pac a lesson. Cause Pac had owed him some money. So that's why he was up in the studio and was coming to the studio. Pac owed him some money. He was going to work it off and get some money from doing a song with Lil Sean. And that's what that was about. But Pac was talking greasy to Jimmy Henchman, and Jimmy Henchman wasn't the type of dude that you talk greasy to, allegedly. Unless you 50 Cent.
So Diddy knew what was going to happen about it.
He knew Pac was about to deal well, yeah. He was there to see it. He was there to see it. He wasn't only there to see Big them when Jimmy Henchman told him that. He was there to see what's going to happen to Pac. He was there for that. Because had he not been there for that, he would have went up there in the office. He would have went to the studio or the studio session with Big and them. He would have went to that studio session with Big and them. He knew what room Big and them was in. He didn't do that. He was there to see what was going to happen to Pop after Jimmy told him.
Gene says this matches what Kirk Burroughs has also suggested for years, that Diddy was involved behind the scenes in ways the public never saw. He adds that if finances played any role in what happened, Kirk would be in a position to understand how and where that support came from, making these claims even harder to ignore.
Burroughs, he also said that, he feels like, Diddy was behind Pac murder.
Yeah. If Diddy played a part in that stuff, like he said, Kirk know where the money came from. I'm going to say this. They tried to, if you talk about the Vegas trip and the whole 9 yards, Kirk said that he paid for people to drive out to Vegas. You know what I'm saying? He said he paid for people to drive out of Vegas. I was heavily with Bad Boy at that time. I don't remember that part of it. You understand? I don't remember that part of it. But if Kirk knew and he was paying for people to drive out to Vegas in the whole 9 yards, it's hard to hide $1 million, brother. You ain't going to cash that in the check cashing place. You signing that over to somebody. I said 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 times again. Eric Von Zip showed me and my man Boondang, aka my man Slick, a check for $1 million. We don't know, and everybody trying to say, lying, talking about half of it got paid, 500. I don't know. I know when I asked him about, we asked him, do we ask? No, we didn't ask him. I know when he showed us the check and he walked away after he showed us the check for the $1 million.
Gene argues that while many of the key figures are no longer around, financial records still exist, and he believes the real answers may be hidden in documents, payments, and transactions that can still be traced. Nearly 2 years after the Quad Studios incident, Tupac was killed in Las Vegas, a case that remained unsolved for decades and fueled endless rumors across hip-hop. That silence was broken in September 2023 when Dwayne Keefe Davis was arrested and charged with prosecutors alleging he played a central role in the crime. The situation intensified again in July 2024 after court filings revealed a previously undisclosed 2009 interview in which Davis reportedly discussed his involvement and repeatedly mentioned Diddy, claiming he was acting under outside direction. Additional law enforcement reports also referenced earlier interviews where Davis allegedly said heated personal conflicts were discussed and that financial incentives were mentioned, adding another layer of controversy to a case that continues to raise serious questions and renewed scrutiny.
Claim was an informant in 1997 who told investigators that Puffy had hired the Southside Crips to kill both Suge and Tupac, and that the Crip who was jumped at the MGM was in the group that had done the hit, and that they originally were going to do it at Suge's Vegas nightclub, but then decided to do it right away instead of waiting. This was exactly the same story that Keefe D told us a decade later. Very few people know that immediately after Tupac is shot and that white Cadillac is fleeing, one of the death row entourage, a guy named Alton McDonald, known as Buntree, chases after the Cadillac, and a second shooting takes place between the two vehicles. Alton McDonald's car is struck. In fact, within the Las Vegas files, there's a document that indicates that Alton McDonald's car had been struck by a bullet that night.
He even said that, like, in retrospect, that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to Puffy. By Zip stealing the money, now Puffy isn't connected to that shit. Or else it would have been like a hire or something, you know what I'm saying?
The FBI said Zip.
So the FBI told you the same
thing? The dirty motherfucker.
So the FBI told you that Zip kept that money as well.
They said Zip's the dirty motherfucker. Everybody cross you. You the last one to know every fucking thing, even lawyers, your friends, everybody.
Diddy has denied every accusation. And in July 2024, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police confirmed that Sean Combs has never been considered a suspect in Tupac Shakur's homicide investigation, nor has he ever been charged. Dwayne Keefe Davis has pleaded not guilty and remains in custody as his trial continues to face delays. Even after Tupac's death, concerns reportedly remained high with warnings issued to avoid the West Coast. Yet, Diddy continued moving ahead with plans to promote Biggie's upcoming album. According to claims repeated in Sean Combs' The Reckoning, Biggie was hesitant about traveling, but was ultimately persuaded to move forward. A decision that would later be viewed as deeply troubling in hindsight.
Seen an interview that Puffy did with Fat Joe where he was talking about Biggie in his last moments in LA, and he told Fat Joe that he didn't want to go to LA, he actually wanted to go to London, but Biggie, he was the one that wanted to go to LA, and he was the one that was pushing to go to LA.
That's not true. My name is Kirk Burrows. I ran Bad Boy Entertainment. I helped co-found it. I created the company with him. I raised from general manager to president. And at that time, I put all of those business plans together. And Biggie didn't want to go to LA, ended up going. What got him out there was a week ahead of time to ease him into the whole award show. He may not have wanted to go to London, but was talked into it. First time ever, a rapper of your stature getting this treatment. That would be something he would be interested in doing, but he was easily talked out of it by Sean so that they can make an appearance at an event in LA that Saturday night. A part of the posturing of not only did we come to the award show, not only am I recording my album out here, and Big is going to help me with some of the writing and maybe do something out here where me and him did this song in LA. I'm out on the town.
Gene Deal says this lines up with what he later learned from Clark Kent, a close associate of Biggie who worked in the industry and openly questioned why Biggie was even out that night. According to Clark, Biggie was supposed to be traveling, not socializing. Gene says he had no idea about this detail at the time and only became aware of it years later when Clark spoke about it publicly, adding yet another unsettling layer to a timeline that continues to raise serious questions.
They wasn't going out to no party, no clubs, and no hip-hop scene. They wasn't doing none of that, brother. But that one particular night they go out, and it was because of Puff and D-Rock. Clark Kent said that shit himself. I've been saying it for years, but everybody was saying, I'm capping. Nah. What do you call Clark Kent? Is he capping? He's a vice president of a record company. You understand what I'm saying? He was DJing for Big. Is he capping? All these people should smack themselves, brother. Because what happened is, when people hear the truth, they can't believe it. Why? They can't understand it. But it happened. We couldn't have done nothing because there was no we. There was no we out there. Big had a security, Paul offered, Reggie Bullock. Puff had me and Kenny. We was down 6 to 8 other men. And it's 23 people in the entourage. And none of them got no guns. You don't go Cali empty-handed. We couldn't.
What continues to weigh on Gene Deal the most is that he personally pushed for tighter security before they went out. Sensing the risk ahead, he says he raised the concern repeatedly only to be shut down and told it wasn't necessary. According to Gone, the decision was justified by claims that there wasn't enough budget to increase protection. A response that still haunts him and leaves lingering questions about choices made at a critical moment.
Still want to know about them. They should have had better security. I asked them before we gonna go out? Let's hire some more security. They refused to hire more security. They refused to hire more security. Kirk Burrows said the same thing. They ain't have it in the budget. Not without Big, they don't have no budget.
How about that? Detective Greg Kading later stated that in his view, Diddy's actions did not help move the case forward and instead made the investigation more difficult, adding further complications to an already complex search for answers.
Perceptions have changed slightly, gradually over time. Today, I look at Diddy with through a different lens than I might have 10, 15 years ago. There were obviously some early red flags, but it's a complicated thing because we have to be very careful about falsely accusing people or even, making accusations based on nothing more than speculation. And we just haven't seen all the evidence. So I prefer to kind of withhold judgment on some things. I can tell you regarding Diddy back when Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls were murdered. He wasn't exactly cooperative. He didn't do what you would assume a friend or, a manager, so to speak, would do. So from a law enforcement perspective, he was very unhelpful in an area where he ought to have been contributing towards getting some type of justice in those two murder cases. But as we found out in time, he was complicit in one of them, and which would make sense why maybe he didn't cooperate in the other, because the two were, they were just, we always understood that they were somehow interconnected. And so if you're going to cooperate or provide information on one and you're culpable in the other, one thing could lead back to the next. And that's where I think he understood his own vulnerability.
Witnesses described Biggie's attacker as a man in a blue tuxedo with a bow tie, yet no arrest or charge has ever followed, leaving both cases officially unresolved decades later, while Diddy has faced no legal action. That status, however, is now under heavier scrutiny as more alleged links continue to surface regarding his possible connection to Tupac's death. According to Kirk Burrows, the tension didn't start at Quad Studios. It was already simmering beneath the surface, fueled by fragile trust, inflated egos, and silent industry rivalries. When Tupac was attacked inside the building, Burrows says the impact was immediate and irreversible, triggering a chain reaction that permanently altered relationships between both sides and ensured that nothing in hip-hop would ever be the same again.
Coming in, he was friendly with Big. He saw Little Sean, people like that. They wanted him to come and do a record. That was what was set up at Quad. Biggie knowing Little Sean, they were all there, C's, all of them. It was just going to be a fun night at the studio. Pac showed up. He saw them looking down from the window. His new friends were there. An incident happened in the elevator. It might have been a scary thing, like just to send a message. Tupac standing his own ground, just didn't leave it at that. He ended up getting hit, getting shot. The elevator went up. Our people were shocked to see him in that state. He was shocked to see our people looking at him shot. He thought that they knew something about it. He thought if he was in New York and he was with all the rappers from the East, they must have known what was going to happen. It had to be in the wind, and situations aren't laid out like that. And it was the furthest thing from the truth, but he held that to his heart. And then he went away. A few other things happened, got better, got repaired, went away, went to jail on a rape charge. Once that came down on him, it looked as if the East Coast must have been the worst thing and the worst place for him to have come to. And it looks as if the friends that he had just turned their backs on him. Suge stepped in. And when Suge stepped in, he signed him. He signed him to a napkin at Clinton. And that letter that he sent through Wendy Day, she was definitely a person that was connected and a mediator between most everyone in the hip hop game and had been for a minute. Legendary person. She delivered the letter to my office. It started with West Side Up. So it gave an indication of rumblings that we heard in the street with him being shined by Suge was definitely true. He's going to go west when he come back, and he has an issue.
Burroughs says Tupac made it clear that the situation had crossed a line and was no longer just about music, delivering a message that left no room for doubt. Tupac believed the conflict had escalated into a full-scale battle with Puffy and Biggie. And his words carried a chilling sense of finality. There was no confusion, no mixed signals, just a firm belief that what happened at Quad Studios had permanently shifted everything, turning rivalry into something far more serious and impossible to walk back.
By the name of Wendy Day, very important woman in the hip-hop world. I think she helped Baby and those guys with Cash Money label, setting that up. She's very influential and instrumental in a lot of success. When I started in the music business, I reached out to her. She had a company called Rap Coalition. She went back and helped rappers from a previous generation get their money straight, their royalties. With that being said, I was like, she's someone I want to know. In knowing her, I had the good fortune of when she was dealing with Tupac, during his crises on the East Coast, she went to visit him at Clinton. He wrote a letter, drafted it, so that she can bring it to me at the office so that I could know and be able to relate to Sean where we were with him. And the letter, if I remember, it said, West Side Up. And what we had heard was rumblings that Suge came and signed him on a napkin to a contract, and he was going to go west. And all the stuff that happened to him on the East and made it look like people on the East, King or the biggest rappers on the East, or people that he knew should have warned him or protected him against what had happened. And it just is not geographically laid out like that. And a lot of people caught some blame for things that they had nothing to do with. And he took offense, went west, and that started him as a mouthpiece against the East, all right, going at Biggie. And I think it's more than, that's one level of the beef. Then I think there's another level of things that were going on in the streets where things happened in the dividing line between East and West that caused a big rift that led to mouthpieces.
From Burroughs' viewpoint, that moment was the real spark that sent the feud spiraling out of control long before the violence that would later stun the world, marking a shift that could not be reversed. Meanwhile, Chopper has voiced a far more pointed belief, saying he strongly suspects Did's involvement based on deep personal hostility at the time. A claim he frames as his own perspective rather than proven fact. Together, these opposing accounts highlight how that period became a turning point filled with tension.
You made about how when you would bring up Pac name around Diddy, he'll get mad.
Yes. He hated every bit of it. I remember one time, he was like, who did you grow up listening to? I'm like, Tupac. I ain't mentioned Biggie. That nigga ain't even talk to me for like 4 days after that. Everything with Pac, like, you couldn't say Pac was anything better than Biggie. You can't put them in the same realm or nothing. It was all about Biggie. Nigga, I ain't know no fucking, it was all a dream whole song. I knew a couple words, the first verse maybe, but he made us recite the whole fucking thing. I guess, I don't know. He made us recite that whole fucking thing. And I don't think that Biggie would have gave a if a nigga would have killed about reciting this whole shit. You dig? Like, cause I grew up listening to Biggie too, and I just felt.
That's why Chopper says Diddy's feelings toward Tupac went far beyond rivalry or ego and felt deeply personal. He describes it as intense and unwavering, not driven by competition, but by something much deeper that he didn't fully understand at the time. Only later, looking back, did Chopper say he realized just how strong and serious that animosity truly was. A level of hostility that, in his view, explained much of what later unfolded.